And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. Time to blast through a bunch of information about what's going on with the local star and lots more. New active region rising down here in the southeast. It's already a sunspot. We'll show you detailed imagery toward the end of the video, at the end of our bonus segments, in between the space weather and meteorology portions of the video. Here at the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. So flaring coming from this sunspot as well. We've got some coronal mass ejections to cover. And at this point, all of the sunspot activity is in the southern hemisphere. That's your SDO intensity gram. Here's your SDO colorized magnetogram. This appears to be alpha class so far. I have a feeling there may be some trailing umbrae that are of opposite polarity there. We'll get into that at the bonus segments feature. Here's the home reef at Tonga. Some new real estate showing up there. That's about a 6-acre island, having just risen out of the sea. It's about 180 meters wide. Let's see what else has been erupting here in the past 24. The Tiornes fracture zone has calmed down. It's gone from 1,000 quakes a day to a couple hundred earthquakes per day. Shivaluch is exploding on the Kamchatka Peninsula, producing a 13,000-foot volcanic ash plume. Flight level 130. The Alade volcano, gas and water plume there. No indication of any sort of flight level over Alade. Kadivar exploding, flight level 050. It's a 5,000-foot ash plume. Ibu, Mount Ibu in Indonesia. 8,000-foot ash plume from Ibu. Semeru exploding. 14,000-foot ash plume over Semeru. It's a flight level 140. Again, that new real estate there being created in the Tongan Reef. It's 182 meters by 173 meters. So it's about a 6-acre island. We're considering investing in some real estate there. Nevado del Ruiz exploding, flight level 260. 26,000-foot ash plume over Colombia. Sangay exploding in Ecuador. 23,000-foot ash plume. Revenador also exploding in Ecuador. 16,000-foot ash plume, flight level 160. And headed down to South America, we see Sabancaya exploding in Peru. 25,000-foot ash plume there. It's a flight level 250. Nevados de Chilean exploding. 15,000-foot ash plume. And Piton de la Fournaise on the Isle of Réunion, erupting in a Strombolian fashion. Perhaps no significant ash plume there. And we're going to get to earthquakes here first. You're all invited to visit smashomash.com. You can find all of our links there, like a permanent link to our Discord chat, a link to our Patreon channel, Instagram, etc. Welcome to the Neo Renaissance. Support the channel via clicks by visiting smashomash.com. You can also find a link to the Smash team there, that graphical link, as well as a link up at the header to the Smash team site. That's our subscription services site. We built our own. You can also find links to SureMed there. Take your health into your hands by becoming a member of the American Better Health Organization. It'll open you up to the ability to purchase group insurance, only available through SureMed. And a base membership will get you all kinds of features like doctors by phone, counselors by phone. Are you losing your you-know-what? Contact counselors by phone with a base SureMed membership. Virtual veterinarians, similar to doctors by phone, but virtual veterinarians by phone or video. Discounts on dental, vision. Check out the retail and mail-order pharmacy, health advocate solutions, discounts on vitamins, and tons more. Again, links below the video and on the homepage at smashomash.com to SureMed. Improve your health, which is the focus of the American Better Health Organization, otherwise known as SureMed. consider becoming a member of the Smash team. If you're unwilling or unable to pay us a couple bucks per month, join at the bronze level. You'll get email alerts if you sign up for them for all kinds of things like natural disasters. Thanks to our gold and silver Smash team members, the best value is the gold annual paid-up subscription. It's got complimentary merch, and it's basically equivalent to having 4 months of a free gold membership. You can also find our merch shop in the links below this video and on the homepage at smashomash.com. Our Smasho merch shop is ordered here by Best Selling. Today's featured product is Universum Liberate. Since the Space Force has brought peace to space around Earth, why not help bring peace to the galaxy through a message of freedom and liberty? Universum Liberate is what I say to each of you. If you could wave your magic wand, wouldn't you set everybody free? Well, support the Galactic Federation Special Forces by picking up some merch. Wouldn't you like to set everybody free? Well, that's the goal of the Galactic Federation Special Forces. Kind of makes sense to say Universum Liberate. One of our top sellers there. Today's featured product. Did you know we're also on Twitch, twitch.tv/Smashomash? It's true, folks. It's true. Thanks to our new followers over there. Thanks to our new followers over on Twitter. You'll see content you won't see anyplace else by viewing us on Twitter. So perhaps consider creating an account if you don't have one. If you've deleted your Twitter, get a Twitter account. Hold Twitter accountable for its own pathetic censorship. Yes, big tech, it's trying to self-destruct. Perhaps it thinks it's able to destroy the internet, but it's only destroying itself. Not sure what the reasoning is. Perhaps it should stop misleading shareholders. Thanks to our new subscribers over on YouTube. Don't forget to press like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Thanks to everybody who has, the past 5+ years, tuned in to the most detailed imagery of the sun and the most comprehensive space weather anywhere in the world. Let's get to global seismicity. And there's the past 90 days, a little uptick here in the past week or so. And let's scroll up the list. No major quakes in the past 24 hours. And the largest quakes have actually been aftershocks at Taiwan. Some interesting earthquakes there in central Alaska. But pretty calm here over the past 24 hours. Largest quake indeed was an aftershock at a magnitude 5.5 coming in at 2:07 this morning Universal Time at Taiwan. And Papua New Guinea saw a 5.0 here. That was at depth of over 150 kilometers estimated. So here's the last 48 hours in our house favorite wavelength, which is 171 angstroms. And you'll see that active region rising in the lower left, known as the southeast. And for you new viewers, if you're not aware of why we call this the east, this is called the east side because that is where space weather rises. The west side is where space weather sets, like this active region up here. And that's why they're called the east and the western sides. We have seen a little uptick in the radio flux here in the past 24. So yeah, that's the last 48 hours. And the radio flux now at 136 solar flux units. We can expect to see this increase additionally as that active region rising in the southeast is quite large and quite charged. There's the 1-year graph. To put it in context, the black line's the radio flux, the red line is the sunspot number. Perhaps you can see how proportional those are. Space weather enthusiast dashboard, NOAA not forecasting any geomagnetic storms or geomagnetic unrest conditions as summer comes to a close. Summer ends on Thursday around 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Here's the last 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from space. We have a fairly weak coronal hole wind stream at the moment, causing some variations there in the magnetohydrodynamic pressure. Nothing to write home about. And here's the last 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. Again, things geomagnetically calm here. And the solar wind got right about to where we forecasted it, just over 500 kilometers per second. KP index at 1. And once again, for you new viewers, the KP index is a measurement of global geomagnetism. So here's a real-time solar wind, and you can see, just as we forecasted, getting a little bit over 500 kilometers per second, never quite reaching 550, it looks like, or just barely reaching 550. Now subsiding already. Kind of a short-lived coronal hole wind stream so far. Current conditions about 475 kilometers per second. Solar wind density about 7.8 protons per cubic centimeter. And let's get into magnetic data. There are your GOES magnetometers for the past 3 days. Not all that much of an effect on those from the incoming coronal hole high-speed stream. Let's take a look at the top view Let's take a look at the top view ecliptic plane field plot. And I would notice that the North Pole coronal hole is starting to look like it's migrating a little bit more here. Earth is in a North Pole current sheet, but it looks like there is a South Pole current sheet headed this way shortly. So that could be an indication that that rising sunspot in the southeast isn't so strong, or perhaps there is some more activity in the northeast. We'll keep you posted in our daily space weather videos. And here's our line of sight field plot. The sun's B field depicted here in blue. Polar fields depicted in red and green. And let's move to coronal holes. So we've got only South Pole oriented coronal holes here at the moment. They are getting a little bit more well-defined. We can expect a high-speed wind stream from some of those coronal holes, especially this very well-defined equatorial one right here. I would expect some aurora to be produced by that. Some geomagnetic storm conditions like a KP5, geomagnetic unrest KP4, or minor geomagnetic storm KP5. As that is a quite trans-equatorial coronal hole system there, showing up just before the equinox. And let's move to sunspots. So we can expect the sunspot number to rise today because this group is going to get a name. It is already a sunspot. We'll show you high-res imagery of that at the end of our bonus features segment. Likelihood of large flares is actually very high at the moment, as this group is quite active and right on the limb. The location where it's more likely to produce large flares, so I would actually think flare probability is higher than what's depicted over here, but let's move on to take a look at some intensitygram. So that is yesterday plus today. We're going to zoom in on the southern hemisphere because that is where the spots are located. Some interesting migration by this spot here, moving rapidly toward the equator. Otherwise, things fairly stable. So some significant flaring happening here also, like some major C-class flares, like this C7.63. We haven't seen an increase in the proton flux, and let's take a look at this in 131 angstroms. And we're also going to show 94. In the meantime, let's pause for station identification. Thanks for tuning in to the Smash News Network. Least busted name in news. So that's yesterday plus today. We've got, again, likelihood of large flares actually coming from this group as it rises over the southeastern limb. And let's zoom in a little bit on the southern hemisphere. The other great wavelength to use for watching solar flares is 94 angstroms. There have been indeed some coronal mass ejection events in the past 24 hours. We will get to that momentarily. Again, the proton flux not seeing any spikes in it here, so none of those solar flares have sent any relativistic particles to Earth's field-aligned currents. So here's a star chart. If you're up before dawn, you may see some lovely planetary displays. The sky is quite clear over Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania today. You're able to see Jupiter, Mars, the Moon, and Venus just rising over the horizon. If you've got access to a low horizon, that's what's going on. That star chart brought to you by in-the-sky.org. Here's your solar system forecast as we approach a new moon. We've got a crescent waning at the moment. Here's your 1 week forecast. There's where things will be in a week. Please keep in mind this diagram is not to scale. So here are some coronal mass ejections from yesterday. It looks like, based on our Twitter feed, that some people may think that some of these are earthly directed. I'm not so sure. What would be nice is if we had data from stereo A, but really we don't. Stereo A showing some ancient data instead. So that's yesterday. And here's today. So again, some additional CMEs happening there. They just look like separate events. They don't appear to be earthly directed to me. Now, there might be an earth-directed component there. I do see some diffuse ejecta coming out of both sides of the coronagraph here, so that one might have a minor earthly directed component, but not a major one. Let's take a look at the Soho-Lascaux C3. So just earlier today, yeah, maybe some of that ejecta is earthly directed there. And if so, we could expect a minor CME impact late in the day on the 22nd. So some distinct possibility there of a minor CME impact late on the 22nd. Continuing on to look at filaments. Here is our National Sunspot Observatory ground-based hydrogen alpha telescope at Learmonth, Australia. And a ton of filaments here on the earthly side of the solar disk. All those dark absorption features there, those are filaments. Likelihood of coronal mass ejections very high, along with likelihood of major solar flares. So here's the last about 2.5 hours from the GOES 16 SUVI. We'll be streaming this today on Twitch. Don't forget to follow us over there. Maybe install the Twitch app. It's free. Twitch.tv/SmashoMash. Sort of the ultimate screensaver, just having the sun on your desktop all day long. Twitch.tv/SmashoMash. We'll be keeping an eye on it. Next, satellites community dashboard here showing no charging hazards. Clear sailing at the moment for satellites. The electron flux has largely cratered here, briefly making it into warning levels, at least from the GOES 17. Late in the day yesterday. And NOAA nailed the forecast once again. We were expecting this to be a little bit lower. So shout out to NOAA for hitting that forecast. We can expect this to be a little bit lower today once again. I'm not so sure it's going to be that high, but we'll see what happens if the coronal hole high-speed stream subsides or not. There's the one-year chart of the relativistic electron flux. That's the greater than 2 mega electron volt electron fluence. Next, we'll look at the ionosphere in vibrational frequency. This is the F layer, which is located at about 300 kilometers of altitude. One slice of the bridge between Earth and space. So ionosphere being dominated by high-frequency anomalies here. And we'll show you the anomalygram. There's the anomalygram. That's anomaly in megahertz from the 30-day median. And as we approach the equinox, we will have a maximization of the Russell-McPherson effect. A Russell-McFarren effect, rather. And that's the reason why September is the most geomagnetically active month, because of the Russell-McFarren effect. March is the second most geomagnetically active month. It has to do with the induction of currents into the earthly geospace. There's the latest image, 10:15 Universal Time. And continuing on, the total electron content forecast is back, at least part of it. So it looks like this will be returning here. This is what we would prefer to show. And since we've only got partial data there, we're also going to show the North American total electron content forecast. So we've got the total electron content, the standard deviation, and the anomaly. So there are the most likely places for GPS errors. For North America, here's a standard deviation. And here's the anomaly. So that's a pretty sweet bonus feature. Let us know in the comments if you'd prefer for us to keep the North American total electron content forecast or only show the global view. Here's our refreshes for the latest intensitygram and latest colorized magnetogram. And there's our new sunspot group. It's actually gained some complexity since we did show prep. So there are the fields. We've got this small South Pole leading umbra here. trailed by a larger north. No, that's South Pole also. I think it's only Alpha class at the moment, but I have a feeling that there are some opposite polarity umbrae behind that. So we'll have to see what happens, but at the moment, I only see one polarity, I think. This group down here is still quite magnetically complex. It's certainly beta gamma class. Again, most likely major flares are from this new rising group because it is so close to the limb, and it's already been producing a lot of flares. So let's take a look at the colorized magnetogram plus 171 angstroms. And just bear with it, because this video is indeed streamed live. Tinman1057, thanks for leaving a comment. Here at the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. We always appreciate that. And here's the colorized magnetogram plus 171 angstroms. That's the data from yesterday plus today. And that is where our bonus features end and our meteorology segment begins. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at the sea surface temperatures in the western Atlantic. There's a lot of warm water here. And that hurricane, the one that struck and removed the power from Puerto Rico, now hitting the Dominican Republic, the eastern portion of the Isle of Hispaniola is going to turn to the northwest and then turn to the north. And there's plenty of hot water up there to aid in convection. There's not a lot of Saharan dust to tamp it down, and it is expected indeed to increase in intensity. It's going to get bigger. The pressure is going to drop. The winds are going to go up, and it's going to be some stormy seas in the north central Atlantic. At the moment, winds aren't that high, but they're going to pick up. We'll show you a forecast in a moment. First, let's go around the world and take a look at the winds. There are the surface winds of the east. Here are the jet streams of the east. Jet streams of the west. Surface winds of the west. Surface winds of the central world. And the jet streams for this side of the planet. Here's your weather.gov map. If your county's lit, click your county. Head to weather.gov. Find out what your weather warnings are, if you've got any. We won't go over it. It's too much information to cover. We'll instead show a pressure and precipitation forecast for the lower 48. Some strong storms there coming across Lake Ontario in about 3 days. Once again, that's your 72-hour GFS pressure and precipitation forecast for the lower 48. And here's what's going to happen with this storm. It's going to make a turn to the north and intensify. You can see the pressure dropping there, the winds picking up, as well as the size of that system getting larger. Again, lots of warm water there to aid in convection, and not a lot of Saharan dust to slow it down. So it's going to be intensifying here for at least the next 3 days, and probably even longer than that. Will it turn back to the U.S.? You'll have to tune into our video tomorrow to find out about that. Once again, that's your 72-hour GFS pressure and wind forecast for the Western Atlantic. So here's the current state of affairs. Pressure is only at about 990. So it's not super low at the moment, but it's going to get much lower, and that storm is going to get much bigger and turn into a much harder blower. Let's take a brief look at the Euro forecast here. The Euro forecast, they're largely agreeing with the GFS. Not expecting it to go quite as far north, but indeed expecting it to have much lower pressure there in 3 days. Next, we've got your NASA GOES lightning mapper. Quite a bit of active lightning there showing up in the area. And since we've got terrestrial lightning in the US, let's move to the real-time lightning map. And check it out, there's some thunder rolling in here. Around Sandusky. Also Port Clinton. Major thunderstorm there, south of Sandusky. So those are your currently active cells from lightningmaps.org. Next time you hear thunder, check it out. Quite a bit of lightning there around the southern Great Lakes. Next, your U.S. Doppler radar map. Precipitation striking southern Alaska once again. We're going to focus on the lower 48 for the remainder of the video. Heavy rains in California and just moving into Cincinnati. Also, Cleveland is in the crosshairs. Also, Buffalo, New York, and Pittsburgh. There's weather a-comin'. Here's a 3.9 nanometer radiation satellite. And here is the water vapor map. Huge compression happening here as we see high pressure here and high pressure here with a low pressure in between. Massive pressure gradients as a result of that. And here's your recap. Some cold air being injected from Canada once again. Remember, cold air is more massive than warm air. That's why a hot air balloon floats. And dry air is more massive than moist air because of the molecular mass of nitrogen, which is N2, versus the molecular mass of H2O, which is water vapor. There's your shortwave radiation satellite. And there is your water vapor map. We hope you understand atmospheric physics. And thanks for tuning in to the Daily Space Weather. Thanks for tuning into the Smash News Network in general. And may that solar wind be at your back.